So now let's move on to the Dragons, the big old Dragons, who were sync listed at 10th. They finished in 10th, but they were in 7th coming out of Cascade 2, so they dropped a few spots. They had 3 seconds in the finals, one of them by 2K and then 6K and then 8K, so their losses got slightly larger. They did move up and down the ladder a lot during the week. There was, I think they finished, 12th after Cascade, after one of the Cascades. So they got a favourable draw, went right the way up. Yeah, went right the way up, finished in 7th, and then obviously had a much harder draw from there, and they finished in 10th place. So, okay, what did we see, CV? Did you guys play the Dragons much, and what did you see in there from the Dragons?
Yeah, definitely played the Dragons a lot during the competition. Now, one thing we noticed and tried to utilise where we could was we thought that the tail end might be a little bit weaker when it came to taking bases. However, we never wanted to go base dump style against the Dragons. So basically, every game that we versed that we knew the Dragons in there, we obviously had assigned positions to counter a dump and a brief to counter a dump, obviously, because they play a really good dump style game, very organised, communication's very good, and it pushes the game out to be very high scoring, and quite often they come out on top in that style game. So we didn't want that to be forced at any stage. So we didn't want to slow them down enough to force that style of game, but we needed to keep ahead of them so that they'd continue to play perhaps a 2 attack, a 3 defense, or something similar. If they played that game, then we believed that they would be slightly weaker than normal with the tail end. Immediately noticed VG Master is improved in leaps and bounds. His pack on pack was very good. He would go out with a combination of Nufa and Gustus to go and get those early bases, and he would take the supporting position to support that player to push him through a base. And trying to take him on, he quite often would beat me on one-on-one more than I'd beat him. I could definitely tell you that. Very smart player, knew where to be to support the player and then go through, push them through a base. And then looking at the next lot, Nufa and Gustus are no pushovers, very aggressive style players, score well, known for taking bases and having good scoring games. I mean, look at Gustus, averaged a 9K average, only behind VG Master on that roster, who was at 9.9, just out of 10K. I believe, you had a VG Master and that combination of attackers pushing players through bases, but you never knew when they were just going to go flip the coin and then we're going to play a 10-base game and dump. And when they did, it was very successful. I believe most of the times that when they did it, they'd at least get a first, if not second. It's quite a reliable strategy. But I believe when the tournament progressed, the meta became more defensive, it became more risky to just go throw out a dump straight away, and you could easily get exploited and ditched into third if it went wrong. You didn't get those bases, and that's how it could possibly end. So one thing I would note with this particular team, though, they did get and suffer a lot with the flu, and I swear Garn nearly died at one point. I saw the poor man who was just coughing and spasms, and it wasn't good. But anyway, I believe there may have been some attribute to them to falling on the last day, not being able to perform in that fashion. It's very hard to play in that sort of condition. It may have attributed it to them not getting the first and instead getting the second in that particular case, not being completely 100%, But that was a general summary there. With their defense, you have a combination of Garn Dragon, that guy, good comms there, reliable defense. But one thing with this particular team, if you drew a game out long enough, they would become increasingly more offensive. If they push too many people out, they could go through and get a quick few hits if their defense was slightly weak for a period of time. But, you had to play the long game for that one and be patient and just verse them pack on pack, because once you get past VG Master and Nufa, it gets a little bit weaker on the tail order when it comes to pack and so forth.
It's interesting to note how teams' play styles reflect the arenas they come from, which totally makes sense that would be the case. I'm not sure, did any of the Canberra guys talk to you about whether they currently play with base evacuation at Canberra? Because they didn't used to play with base evacuation.
Yeah, I didn't have a chat with any of them about that, but yeah, I've kind of forgot that that's a thing. Yeah, they definitely favored like that dump very high base game style, which I didn't play Canberra Nuts, but was that a high base, high scoring arena, or?
Can't even remember.
2013 is a long time ago, but I don't think it really necessarily was, to be honest. From memory, I can't remember it being a lot of dumps on. But I have noticed just over the years, the sites that have either no base evac or they have, like Bendigo, for example, there's no real strong internal positions. And we had Werribee 2011 was like that as well. That can become a little bit like favourable for dump strategies, essentially. So it's no surprise that Canberra are very good at executing a dump and manage, because what's the biggest challenge, I guess, with a dump is, one, you've obviously got to be able to roll the bases, but also keeping your field points accumulating over whilst you're basically in a massively congested situation. So it sounds like they were quite good at that. They were quite good at keeping their field points ticking over, even though there was 10 plus people all at a base potentially. Did you guys see them play successful standard strategies as well? Did they have a bit of diversity in what they were doing?
Yeah, they didn't do it every game, for sure. From what I saw, it seemed like the Dragons, it seemed like they tailored their strategies a little bit to the teams that were versing. It was less like, let's go in and play a standard game every game like we see from a lot of teams nowadays. Less like playing to the meta, I guess. And they seem to really tailor strategies to who they're versing. And then also, importantly, is it two teams that are supposed to be better than us? Is it one that's below and one above, or is it two that are below us? I feel like that played a lot into the strategic decisions they made. We versed them a couple times. Well, I say a couple, quite a few times across the comp. Yeah, we saw all kinds of games. We saw dumps that went really well. We saw standard games that didn't go as well for them. And we saw some kind of, there was, I specifically remember a game that went, I couldn't really tell what they were doing. We were we couldn't figure it out either, but yeah, they definitely had their best results when, CV was saying, it broke out into a really high base game. But not so much when it didn't.
Well, sitting at home, I was actually really pumped watching the Dragons. Just watching them compete. They're probably competing higher on the ladder than they've competed for a while. And now that's just me not pulling any facts, but just gut feel. It was great to see VG Master get a podium in solos. I felt like, okay, so they've got a marquee player now coming through who's top end. They've got Nickel as a side off now, which Nickelback. No, I said that on the stream as well last time, didn't I? You go. Got Nickelback. There we go, twice. There you go, everybody. And I think that will breathe some rejuvenative energy, some new energy into the place, and it'll be interesting to see how much of that energy he's putting into leagues and the local scene as well, because I know running a ZLTAC business is not easy, and running the league is not the highest priority often when you're trying to keep the doors open. So it'll be interesting to see that if he can find the time to invest in and how passionate he is. But the fact that he was at Nationals, he was on the stream, he was being really active is a good sign for all that. So I feel like there's things for coming together for them, and the results this year were pretty decent. How do you guys see the future for the Dragons? CV, what would you say about the future for the Dragons? What could they work on to improve into the next tier? And what was your overall view of how they're positioned going forward?
To be straight with you, I honestly believe Dragons deserve to be a couple of places high. They just had a really unfortunate last day. I reckon they deserve to be in about at least 8th, unlucky 9th, but 10th, I don't think they deserve that. For whatever reason, some of the combinations that they went out with didn't quite work out. But I believe there's a solid core of a team here. You've got your solos player there that's going to get really good pack in VG Master, and don't forget Nufa's won a solos as well. The next player, Gustus, is going to smash players through bases. You're going to see that in the future. So I believe if they can tighten up their defense more, they should be able to not drop so many bases. And if they can win those 5 to 6 base games, rely more on their attacking order, I believe it's going to be a little bit more of a versatile style gameplay. Right now, they're relying on some of those more higher scoring strategies. But I reckon if the tail end can really coordinate that defense, get those one-on-one duels, get the pack, and really punish the team for attacking them, then their attacking base is going to be worth so much more, and effectively be able to outscore the team more effectively. So if we see a tighter defense, more development in that particular area, it'll make those bases that the attacking order get worth so much more in the future.
All right, and Holmes, you got anything to add to that?
No, I'm just like, we're seeing a common theme of the teams around the mid tier having like a thing that they're like really good at, and a style of game that really benefits them, but the other, like the antithesis style gameplay is where they really struggle. So yeah, it's just interesting that we keep seeing that over and over again. But yeah, I hate to keep saying the same thing over again, but the best teams are the ones that are able to do everything. So if they want to crack into that top tier, they have to be able to play both of those style of games. So yeah, that's just everything that CV said. Summed it up pretty well, I reckon.
Yeah, and I guess we've seen these guys at Nationals for a long time now, so I really hope that they stick together. Like you said, CV, you've got such a look down that list: VG Master, Nufa, Augustus, Garn. They've all been playing forever, and even Dragon and that guy have been playing for a long time now as well. So, with numbers at home that they can train against, another year under their belt, hopefully a few pre-nats. Really expecting a climb from them going forward.
Just quickly, thank you, Dragon, for pulling my slack on that AEC shift I slept in for. You're a legend.
Good on you, Dragon.
Yeah.
Extra votes from the Laser Sports Academy team for that one.
Yeah.
Beautiful.